Good evening, my friends. Welcome to tonight's second episode, so 2 for 1, of Woke History. Tonight, I want to talk about something personal to me and to a lot of other people, and that is Pride Month. June is, of course, Pride Month, something that many Republicans are very dissatisfied with. And I thought tonight I'd get into a little bit of why is June Pride Month. First, let's be very clear about something. There are many people who say we should replace June as Pride Month with it being Veterans Month. I am all for Veterans Month. But why do we need to move Veterans Month from November, which is when it is now, to June? It doesn't make any sense. And there's actually two very good reasons, two, that I'm going to talk about tonight for why we celebrate Pride Month in June. One of which relates to today as I make this video, because today is June 28th of 2026. So something very important to the history of the LGBT community happened on June 28th of 1969. And so the other thing that's also extremely important happened on only a few years early, also in June. Um, Although years later, not earlier, what am I saying? But what I'm talking about specifically, which started about 1 a.m. on June 28th, 1969, is a raid. Police in New York City raided a mafia-owned bar called the Stonewall Inn. It was a second raid intended to close the bar because they'd already been raided on the Tuesday of that week, so the 24th. The thing is, it was illegal in New York to sell alcohol at a restaurant or at a bar or restaurant where um, the actions that were considered immoral or disturbing the peace or disorderly actions were taking place, which is a fancy way of saying it was illegal to have a gay bar. Um, Stonewall Inn was a gay bar. And here's the thing, and this is part of what makes the whole thing more screwed up and messed up. It's a gay bar run by the New York Mafia, specifically the Genovese crime family. And that technically gave them the reason for the raid. The bar did not have a liquor license because they would not submit liquor licenses in the state of New York to bars where homosexual activity was being encouraged. Raids were actually very common at the time. It just usually the mafia, since they owned the bar, paid off the cops so that, well, they didn't stop the raids. They at least knew that when the raids were going to happen. They cleared the customers out. No one really got it. It was more show than anything else. So on the night of the 28th, though, things got out of hand. Members of the mafia that worked at the bar were arrested. Regular employees were arrested. And then they started lining up all the homosexual men to identify them, and then sending the ones that were, or at least appeared to be women, to the restroom with a female cop to be checked to make sure they weren't masquerading, which was also illegal in New York at the time, which means they were specifically targeting transgender individuals, cross-dressers, drag queens, all in a pride. And this wasn't a pride parade. This was not a demonstration in public. This was people in a private bar having a drink with each other, two men dancing together. You cannot. This was being done in front of children to a point, because despite the fact it was a bar, it was also a fairly common hangout for street kids at the time, because it's somewhere they could go and be safe. Because again, this is a time period where it was still entirely legal to arrest people for the crime of being homosexuals all over the United States. We're going to get into that with my second point about New York. The cops raided, they arrested, which started a riot out in the streets. Um, Definitely a lot of it was violent reactions to people being arrested simply for the crime of being gay. Um, some of it also seems to have been homosexual because they also wanted to burn. Some of the protesters wanted to burn the bar to the ground, and in fact, attempts were made. The oil was strewn about the bar, and attempts were made to light it. The bar did eventually catch fire. Would eventually catch fire. It took the riot police showing up at around 4 in the morning to finally close things down. And the thing is, that kept going. The next night, June 29th, thousands of protesters came back to Christopher Street to assemble in front of the burned out bar to assert their presence. And again, the TPF, the Tactical Police Force, basically the SWAT, got involved. Activists used the narrow winding geography of Greenwich Village to keep ahead of the cops until early morning. And there were more protests, there were more violent incidents, all because people in a private business were engaging in entirely consensual homosexual activity. This is what started Pride Month in a very fundamental sense. These protests, these calls for gay rights, and the right will tell us, oh, they don't mind if you're gay, just keep it to yourself. Don't wave it around in public. And it's like, how more private do you want than a private bar, not frequented by the general public, that's just getting raided because you want to allow them to have this kind of bar? And you know what? The situation's even more screwed up than that. There's another reason for why we should consider June Pride Month, which is June 26th of 2003, and the landmark Supreme Court case of Lawrence v. Texas. What a lot of people don't realize is that for many years in the United States, if two consenting adults, two men that were both completely consenting, in the privacy of their own home, engaged in sexual activity, that was criminal. Even in 2003, as late as you would think that is, and as progressive as supposedly we had become, they had this ruling, which was specifically about a case that happened in September of 1998 in Houston, Texas, where a false weapons report was made on the home of John Lawrence. Police officers entered the home to find Lawrence engaging in an entirely consensual sexual act with another man by the name of Tyrone Gardner. Both men were arrested and convicted under Texas homosexual conduct statute, a misdemeanor law that criminalized deviant sexual intercourse between individuals of the same sex. This, even in 2003, when this Supreme Court ruling finally legalized homosexuality, 13 states in the United States said two consenting adults having sex in the privacy of their own home could still be charged with a crime called sodomy. It was, again, 2003 when the court ruled that adults have a protected liberty under the Constitution to engage in consensual private sexual conduct without government intervention. This particularly overturned an earlier ruling from 1986, which was Bowers v. Hardwick, which was when, again, two consenting homosexuals got caught having sex based on a misapplied warrant and faced criminal charges. And in that case, in only 1986, so quite recently, the Supreme Court ruled they did not have a right to privacy. Also, to give you an idea of names that are still on the Supreme Court today, in the 2003 case, one of the defenses against keeping sodomy laws on the books came from Justice William Rehnquist, Clarence Thomas, and Antonin Scalia. The Warren decision effectively dismantled the states' authority to legislate public morality and predicted it would lead to same-sex marriage being legalized, which of course happened years later. But again, you will hear people tell you, oh, they don't mind homosexuality as long as it's not in their face. Yeah, folks, if that was the case, they wouldn't have raided the Stonewall Inn. Because it wasn't about it being run by the mob, it was about gay people working there. And let's keep in mind, the mob misused the fact that they owned Stonewall and other gay bars. Because, yeah, they were happy to take the money of homosexuals. That's the thing about this kind of criminalization, is where the law says you, no, 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 you can't do that. The mafia's always been willing to go, yeah, yeah, we'll take your money to let you do that. They, the mafia at the time, and as far as I know today, is very traditionally Catholic, and they were more than happy to use information about who was coming to the Stonewall as blackmail material. The cops that were raiding it were looking to make sure they had names and addresses of people engaging in consensual private homosexual activity, sometimes just dancing or cross-dressing. This is the great America the right talks about. An America where in some states, before the overturning in 2003, not only was it illegal for gay people to engage in sodomy, which the law traditionally defines as oral sex and anal sex, it was illegal for two consenting adults of opposite gender. So a man and a woman could not engage in oral sex. So if you ever had a woman go down on you, there was a time when the religious right in the United States thought you were just as much as a criminal as if a guy was going down on another man. Let that sink in. This is why we need Pride Month, people. For a long time, before I came out of the closet and accepted to myself that I am transgender and bisexual, I didn't quite understand Pride Month either, and I get why people don't. But at no point has anyone been arrested for having a marriage to someone of the opposite gender. No state has had a law saying it was illegal to engage in consensual sex between a man and a woman. Whereas they had to overturn laws in 13 states just in 2003 that said you could go to jail for being gay. They're not gay with a kid, not encouraging being gay among children. And we can talk about how silly those ideas are. But just two adults of legal age in the privacy of their own home or in a private bar engaging in consensual sexual acts. That fight is, in my humble opinion, why we still need pride. And the fact that people want to forget that fight and forget how serious it was and how recent it was is why it still matters. So, to all of you out there, happy Pride Month. If that offends you, I hope you have a very gay Pride Month. I don't care. I will provide academic sources about the things I talked about in the description. Remember the rule of this channel. If you want to disagree with me, if you want to tell me I'm wrong, if you want to call me an idiot, I welcome you to do so. My email address is also in the description. But I brought my receipts for what I've had to say today. Bring yours if you want to tell me I'm wrong. Give me academic, peer-reviewed sources. Give me the sort of thing you submit in a college essay. Don't just tell me what someone told you or what a religious leader told you. Let's see it in academic records, in legal records, since we are talking about legal issues. Let's have a discussion. I am opening the door to discussion, but I'm going to bring my A game, and so should you if you want to disagree with me. I don't even care if you want to insult me. Just have the sources to back yourself up. And that's it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed these 2 episodes. And I'll be back again soon with more to talk about. Until next time, everybody, I wish you all a wonderful night, a happy Pride Month, and remember, keep studying history.